The sun had barely risen when the people of Rahim, a small riverside village, noticed dark clouds rolling across the horizon. For weeks, the farmers had prayed for rain, hoping the skies would bless their dry fields. But what came that morning was not a blessing. It was the beginning of a disaster that would forever change their lives. At first, the rain was gentle, a soft drizzle that children danced in and mothers welcomed with relief. But by afternoon, the drizzle turned into a heavy downpour. The river, which ran calmly beside the village for generations, began to swell. Its surface grew restless, waves slapping against the muddy banks. Some elders warned, "This rain is not normal. The river will rise." Others shook their heads. "We've seen rains before. The river will calm down." But by nightfall, fear had replaced doubt. Rising waters, the river's roar grew louder than the thunder above. Water spilled into the fields, drowning the crops that had taken months of hard labor. Chickens, goats, and cattle struggled in the mud as farmers tried desperately to lead them to higher ground. Children clung to their mothers, their small hands trembling. In the midst of the chaos was Ayaan, a 14-year-old boy with bright eyes and a determined heart. He lived with his parents and younger sister, Miriam, in a modest clay house near the river. When the water started seeping through their doorway, his father shouted, "Quick! Gather what you can!" Ayaan grabbed a small bag of clothes and Miriam's favorite doll, while his mother filled a pot with dried bread and lentils. His father tried to push their cow toward the village square, but the water was rising too fast. Within minutes, their yard was a pool of muddy water. "Climb to the roof," his father yelled. Together, they scrambled up the narrow ladder, their hearts pounding. From above, they could see the entire village drowning before their eyes. A village in panic, lanterns flickered in the distance as families shouted for help. Some people climbed onto trees, others onto rooftops, waving desperately at the dark sky. The rain showed no mercy. Lightning cracked open the heavens, revealing scenes of devastation. Floating furniture, broken fences, and terrified faces. Baba Miriam whispered, clutching her doll, "Will we die?" Ayaan looked at his sister and forced a brave smile. "No, Miriam. I'll protect you." But deep inside, he was just as afraid. The villagers tried to stay connected. They shouted across the roaring waters, warning each other of danger. A few men tied ropes between rooftops to help people move safely. Women prayed loudly, their voices trembling. Children cried into their mothers' arms. By midnight, the entire village was submerged. The longest night on their roof, Ayaan's family shivered in the cold rain. Their clothes were soaked, their hands numb. His father kept scanning the horizon for rescue boats, but none came. The river had swallowed the main road, cutting off help from nearby towns. "We must survive until morning," his father said firmly, though his voice cracked with worry. Suddenly, they heard a scream. A neighbor's house had collapsed under the pressure of the water. A woman clung to a piece of wood, floating helplessly. Without thinking, Ayaan's father tied a rope around his waist and jumped into the water. He swam through the raging current and pulled the woman to their rooftop. Her face was pale, but she whispered, "You saved me. Thank you." Miriam hugged her tightly, trying to give comfort. Ayaan watched his father, shivering but determined, and thought, "My father is the bravest man in the world." The night dragged on. Hunger gnawed at their stomachs. The little bread they had saved was soggy, but they shared it silently. Every sound of thunder felt like the sky itself was breaking. Yet, amidst the fear, there was also unity. From rooftop to rooftop, families shared food, blankets, and prayers. The flood had taken away their homes, but it had brought their hearts closer. Dawn of hope. When the first light of dawn touched the water, the storm finally began to ease. The rain slowed, and the clouds scattered. But the sight that greeted the villagers broke their hearts. Where there had once been fields of golden wheat, there was only a vast brown lake. Houses were half buried in mud, walls broken, roofs missing. Livestock had vanished, carried away by the river. The village they loved had been reduced to ruins. As despair grew heavy, a distant sound broke through the silence. The rumble of motorboats. Rescue teams had arrived at last. Men, in bright orange jackets, threw ropes and life vests, helping families onto their boats.
Children cried with relief. Mothers thanked God, and elders raised their trembling hands in prayer.
Ayaan and his family were among the last to be rescued. As they climbed into the boat, Miriam clutched her doll tightly. Ayaan looked back at their home, now just a shadow beneath the water. His heart ached, but he also felt something new. Strength. Aftermath, the villagers were taken to a relief camp in the nearby town. There, they received food, blankets, and medicine. Life was not easy. Many had lost everything, but they had survived. Days turned into weeks. Slowly, people began to rebuild their lives. Aid came from kind strangers, and the villagers worked together to restore their homes. Ayaan often thought about that night. The fear, the screams, the endless rain. But he also remembered the courage of his father, the prayers of the women, the kindness of neighbors who shared even when they had nothing. The flood had destroyed their village, but it had also taught them lessons they would never forget. The power of nature, the importance of unity, and the strength that comes from hope. One evening, months later, as Ayaan stood by the river, he whispered to himself, "The river can rise again, but so will we." And in that moment, he knew the flood had not just taken from them, it had also made them stronger.